Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cindy and today we will be debunking some common LV myths. I used to work at LV for many years and I recently have been sharing a lot of the behind the scenes information, some customer shenanigans, the benefits and perks that we had as LV employees. So if you are interested in any of that information, then go ahead and subscribe. I posted in my Instagram stories a poll asking what were some common myths that you would like me to discuss. Now the first one really isn't a big deal, but I see this a lot and it just it bothers me because it's a reason that some people will think that a bag is counterfeit even when it's not. Some people think that LV bags are never wrapped in plastic, and that is just not true. In my video where I talk about the toxic work culture at LV, I talk about how I was in charge of all the shipping and receiving for the store and prepping the bags to be put out on the floor and on display and in the drawers, and in the back stock room. When these bags would arrive to the boutique, they were packaged very carefully, just like you would expect any multi-$1,000 bag would be packaged. It was packaged very carefully. It had stuffing to keep the shape. It was wrapped in plastic. It was wrapped in styrofoam in some cases. And the handles of the bag were wrapped in plastic that you had to cut off. And in that video, I talk about how I was training a new employee to, prep these bags to be put out on the floor. And she was using scissors and slashed through the leather handle of a bag because she was cutting the plastic off. The bag should be ready in saleable condition. Now, again, saleable condition means that all the protective covering and wrappings have been removed from the bag. However, there are exceptions to that rule, and the exception is that you are a VIC. I did another video talking about VICs, how to be a VIC and the perks. And one of the perks that I didn't mention is that you can basically request a brand new bag. Now, depending on availability, you can request a brand new bag from shipment. I saw firsthand that there were some VICs who kind of, received special treatment, and that included having a pic of whatever new bag that came in and even taking it out of the store in that condition. So I recall that one of my colleagues had a VIC and she was very, anal about having a brand new bag. And she would request that the bag be brought out to her, totally still packaged in the original shipping box. My colleague would open up the box for her, pull the bag out, complete in its stuffing and original wrapping and plastic, and then the client would okay it and she would buy it. And she would walk out of the store with the box, like the shipping box. It's against the official company policy, but again, every boutique is different. And if that's what the VIC wants, then a lot of boutiques would accommodate that. In her case, her bag was still totally wrapped in plastic. All the hardware had the plastic and stickers, all the leather handles were wrapped in plastic. And then the VIC herself would remove that herself because she wanted that kind of peace of mind knowing she had a brand new bag. That myth that LV bags are never wrapped in plastic is officially debunked. Now, staying on the display bags topic, another myth is that LV does not sell display bags. That is 1000% false. And again, every boutique is different, but I did work at several different boutiques. All the LV bags pretty much followed the same life cycle. So they would come in, and as I stated in my toxic work culture video, an associate or stockroom person would unbox the shipment, prep the bags to be put out on the floor. You would have bags that you would put on the shelves. There were some bags that were put in the windows. And if that was the only style, they definitely sold those bags. In some cases, there were some limited edition pieces, some exotics. They would put those out on display. If they weren't sold and they were damaged, either from being on display or the light, kind of changed the coloring, back then they were then sent to RTV, which is the return to vendor process. And I talk about that more in my LV employee perks and benefits video. Whatever bag was put on display was 100% available to be sold to clients. And they often were. They were told that to keep the display bags fresh, you were supposed to sell from display. So not only is it false that LV display bags are never sold, but actually in some cases you are told that you are supposed to first sell the display bag to the client and then get a fresh bag from the back, and that is to be put on display so that you kind of rotate out the newer bag with the new, fresh vachetta. I personally never did that, especially if it was a speedy or something that was pretty common. I would want to make sure my clients had the freshest bag, but every store is different. and depending on the availability of whatever model, if that is the only item in the store, you definitely would sell it. So this myth that LV never sells their display bags is 1000% false. Another common myth that I hear about is that all LV bags have a serial number inside. And some people go so far as to think that the LV store records the individual serial number, and that serial number is tracked to your purchase so that you can then look up your purchase, track the serial number to a specific transaction at a specific boutique for a particular bag. And that is just not true. There is no kind of blockchain tracking that's tied to a particular bag. I thought for the most part that most people understand that each bag does have a date code, which consists of 2 letters followed by 4 digits. And that indicates the factory or the location where the bag was made. And then the 4 digits indicate either the month and year or the week and year that the bag was produced. Multiple bags and multiple styles can have the same date code. Unfortunately, there is no registered serial number that is tied to any bag. So I think sometimes clients maybe who aren't familiar, and it's usually guys who think this, maybe they think, you know, it's similar to a VIN number or something, or like an IP number for a computer, they think it's tied to a specific bag. That's just not the case. LV bags do not have a serial number. Another common myth is that you need a receipt to bring an LV bag into a store to be repaired, and you don't. Sometimes if you bring an LV bag into a boutique for a repair estimate, sometimes they'll ask you, where did you purchase it? Which boutique? Or, you know, when did you purchase this? And so people are hesitant to bring in a bag that they have bought pre-owned, you know, from a reseller, because they think, oh, I'm not the original owner, I can't get this repaired. That's not true. Any authentic LV item can be brought in to get a repair estimate. Now, whether or not the boutique takes it in for repair depends on the condition of the bag, the availability of spare parts, obviously the authenticity of the bag, but you don't need to be the original owner and you don't need your receipt. Now, some LV client advisors or the repair specialists will ask you where you purchased this and maybe when. First of all, if you did purchase it at a boutique, that's great. They can generally pull up your transaction from their system. But a lot of times they'll ask when it was purchased because depending on the date of purchase, and it's generally within a year, and then depending on the repair, it might be considered a defect, or the repair might be covered depending on when it was purchased. If it was a defect, they might even totally replace the bag and give you a new one, or they'll give you a store credit. So they do ask if you purchased it and when you purchased it, but you do not need a receipt to bring a bag in for a repair. Okay, another quick one. There was just another LV price increase. It's the first of what we expect at this point to be, you know, 2 or 3 price increases throughout the year. And one of the myths that I hear about, and actually it's a good thing, a lot of people think that LV prices only increase and never decrease, but that is not true. LV prices do go down historically, and even recently they've gone down. Now, price increases don't always affect every single category and every single item, or even every single item within a category. It just is totally random. Sometimes it's a few men's items, sometimes it's books and stationery, sometimes it's accessories or textiles. It's all over the place. The reasons that the prices go up have to do with inflation and currency conversion and tariffs and taxes. But the prices do go down. And when I worked for LV years ago, my manager told me, it was years before I even worked, so I think the first time she saw a price decrease was maybe like the late 90s. The price that year had gone up 3 times. And at that point, I think back then, maybe the prices went up maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. It's not as common now where it's 2-3 times a year. Back then it was usually only once a year. But she said that year was unprecedented and it had gone up 3 times. And immediately after it went up the 3rd time, there was a price decrease on some things. And for that reason, I think it was like a currency conversion type thing where, you know, the currency exchange rates vary quickly. And to keep that kind of consistent throughout the globe, they will sometimes decrease prices in certain places. And so that was the first time that LV prices went down that she knew of, and she'd been working at LV for years. And then even recently, maybe last year or a couple years ago, my client advisor told me, it was right after a price increase, and she told me, oh, actually some things went down, you know, some items decreased in price, and it affected like books. So things that, you know, you might not even realize or notice or care about. And then even in those cases, the decrease was nominal, perhaps just a few dollars, maybe $5. I think maybe it was $7. You're not going to save this huge chunk of change and then fly to Europe on vacation with the savings. So most of the time, despite the astronomical price increases that we see with some items, with price decreases, it generally is such a small nominal amount, you know, maybe $5 to $10, depending on the item. But the fact that the prices do go down occasionally is true. And so the myth that LV prices only increase and never decrease is false. Another myth that a lot of people think is that you need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to be treated like a VIC. And I recently did a video on how to be an LV VIC, what the spending threshold is that qualifies you as a VIC. I mentioned in the video that you don't need to spend the required amount. Depending on your relationship with your client advisor, you can still receive a lot of the benefits of a VIC. You can be invited to events, parties, collection launches, at least when we were in store. Now they're all virtual, so it doesn't really matter. Everyone's invited to these virtual events. You don't have to spend a lot of money to be invited to these events now. First of all, the spend amount isn't even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So check out that video if you're interested. You don't even need to spend that qualifying amount to receive the perks of being a VIC. And these are things like, for example, with the Chinese New Year red envelopes that you may be seeing online, you don't have to be a VIC to get those. It just depends on your relationship with your client advisor and the availability of these gifts, you know, within the boutique. I got one right here. That's mine right there. I'm going to do a haul soon, so stay tuned. I was gifted the Chinese New Year envelopes this year. I was also gifted it last year, and I definitely did not qualify to be a VIC with my spend. So that myth that you need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get all the perks of a VIC is false. And now the final myth that I am asked constantly about is whether LV burns their unsold bags. I'm pretty sure the reason that this question comes up is that it was confirmed Burberry at the end of the season burns their unsold merchandise. Obviously, Burberry does this because they don't want their merchandise to be sold at a discount rate. They would rather burn their merchandise than sell it at a significantly discounted price. But it came out and it was a huge scandal. Does LV burn their bags? This is a tricky question because I cannot substantiate this. I have asked every single manager, every single client advisor. Now, I can confirm that Louis Vuitton does destroy certain merchandise. And that is not unsold merchandise, but what it is are bags that were brought in to be repaired and are in such disrepair or deemed defective such that it can't be repaired, that they don't even bother sending it to the repair facility, but that they just destroy it. And when I say destroy, I mean they literally tear it apart, cut it up, and trash it. They don't actually burn it, okay? So we'll start there. So LV does destroy certain items. Now, the myth is that LV burns unsold bags at the end of the season. Now, whether LV burns the bags, that can't be substantiated. It likely is that they don't burn it. They may destroy it in some cases by cutting it up, similar to these bags that are brought in for repair that are, irreparable and that they don't even bother sending to the repair facility. Those are destroyed, but they're just physically destroyed and torn apart and cut up. They're not burned. Every single boutique I've worked at, every manager I've worked with, back then and even today, nobody has confirmed that LV burns bags. What ends up happening, merchandise that is not sold at the end of the season goes on super clearance sale to employees. So even if it's a very high priced item, they would be made available to employees at a significant discount. Now, there may be some runway pieces that cannot be sold or are just priced so high that even at a significant discount, it still is too ridiculous, to be sold to employees. But every LV employee, management, upper management, nobody has confirmed that they burn these bags. So unfortunately, I am going to leave that myth as unsubstantiated, but partially semi-true. Not that they burn unsold merchandise, but that they destroy irreparable damaged items. So I will just leave it at that. I don't know if it's true. Honestly, I just don't know. And every person I have spoken to, they don't know. That is the most common question I'm asked about LV myths, is whether LV burns unsold bags, and I am going to have to leave that as unsubstantiated because I cannot confirm that LV does in fact burn bags. I did confirm that they destroy, irreparable bags, but as far as burning unsold merchandise, I feel it's highly unlikely. In this day and age, with everyone being very eco-conscious, it is highly looked down upon for a major company to destroy perfectly good merchandise for the sake of maintaining a high price point. It just doesn't make sense. There are other things that they can probably do with it, which is to reuse it, repurpose it, gift it, and make it available for employees to purchase. So I'm going to leave it as unsubstantiated, but I am leaning towards no. So that is my video talking about common LV myths. I have debunked all of them, but the final one, whether LV burns their unsold bags, I can't confirm 100% that they don't. But in my line of work where we do these investigations and just on the nature of some allegations, you can't always confirm 100%. What you can do, you have a certain degree of reality, basically, and you can substantiate it or unsubstantiate a claim. And whether LV burns their bags, I just cannot substantiate that. But I hope you enjoyed this video talking about common LV myths. Let me know what's another myth that you've heard about LV, and I will do my best to respond. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in my next video. Bye.